That's your close-up. That's my close-up. That's the wide.
That's the wide.
Mm-hmm. You remember Blackjack? He might come and hang out. That's Cosmo.
Sit right here for a minute.
He's a crazy cat.
Jack's still, he's got the biggest eyes.
He's doing good.
He's just a good cat. He's our favorite pet.
Yeah.
By far.
By far.
Yeah.
Is this just regular tea
Oh yeah, regular chamomile.
for calming? So I don't fucking go ham. Let's feed Carl chamomile tea so he doesn't fucking rant.
What you're about to see is an interview with my good friend Carl. Now, I don't agree with everything that Carl says, obviously. However, he was recently taken off of social media, off of Twitter, off of Instagram, and he actually needs his social media following to sell tickets to his comedy shows. Carl is a comedian. He is here to make you laugh. And he might also insult you every once in a while, but that's just the way he is. So we sat down to talk about some of these things. Again, I don't agree with everything he says, but we talked about some really interesting stuff, and I feel that our conversation is much more along the lines of what people are really talking about than what they put on the TV. So enjoy the interview, and please let me know, do you think Carl should have been kicked off of social media?
Personally, like, my beef is with the left. Because the people on the right were always gonna like refuse shit or be like, "Don't tread on me" and shit. Like, you don't have to worry about them fucks.
Right.
The left laying down in New York City for fucking 3 years, Occupy Wall Street, to now literally shilling for fucking big pharma and companies is the biggest horseshit, especially the woke stuff about Black Lives Matter on coffee mugs and all that stuff. That is the opposite of the Occupy Wall Street shit that they were. It is. Like, punk is dead, hip hop is dead. Don't meet your heroes. Rage Against the Machine is sold out, selling $200 tickets for vax only.
So disappointing.
Was that their decision or was that the...
Who cares? I don't
Studios.
even go to a Starbucks if they're asking for vax. You're gonna make your fucking stick it to the man fans do that?
That's fucking...
Tom Morello with his iHeart Radio show.
Yeah, what is it? Who was the Dana Carvey is not doing back shows, and you're telling me that Rage Against the Machine can...
No, Jim Brewer.
Jim Brewer. Well,
Jim
Jim
Brewer's
Brewer's
like a
always
truth
been
teller
like
now.
that. Jim Brewer's
Jim
like
Brewer,
always had
and, like,
that.
of all people now, like Jim Brewer, Jamie Kennedy, all these people that you didn't like even think were like, oh, I guess they'd be doing stand up, you know? Like
Right.
people sort of wrote them off for years. Now they were like championing against this, and they have like a fucking base behind them, going like, yo, I saw Jim Brewer do 5 minutes that he posted the other day on his Instagram.
Yeah.
Dude, it was so good. It was like a tight 5 minutes about people being offended in like the most Jim Brewer way. And it's people like, I'm offended. It's like, you know what that is? You're walking around with a tight ass. You can't even let out gas. Walking around all tight assed.
We are set.
I'm here with Carl. My audience knows you from the racist cop sketch or the Berkeley cop sketch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, put that on
Nice.
the channel.
Thanks.
Yeah.
This is. I love this intimate. This sort of. By the way, the lighting is so my mood. Just so we know. I mean, this red giant. How do I look with the red behind me? It looks cool, doesn't it?
You look good, Carl.
I look good.
Yeah.
This is me. Huh. Ooh. So your audience knows me? That's what's up.
They know you as the cop.
The big loud cop.
The big loud cop from that sketch
By
you
the
did with
way,
Tony Baker.
That's a brilliant sketch that even if we could like reboot it the whole way and do every line verbatim, it would still be a hit. Like, you know what I mean?
We'll see.
I feel like people need to see that. I don't think it had enough eyes.
That's what I said.
Like, it really is a brilliant sketch.
That's what I said, but people don't want brilliant anymore.
No.
That's not what they're looking
for.
for.
They want dumb. They actually, like, they steal people's IP and shit. And then they go, dude, it's just remixing it. Don't you see the
remix? No.
Like you see that big ass famous YouTuber that like redid the Squid Games? Like, he recreated the entire sets of Squid Games, like all the games, and then gave away like $436,000 to one winner. Like, they all played the games and stuff. And everybody was like, this is amazing. You see why YouTube creators can get this done in a week, and it took them Koreans 10 years. I'm like, yeah, because they created it.
Yeah, they started from scratch.
Yeah, they fucking made it, you fucking loser.
You can copy easy.
Like what kind of shit is this? Like where are we, man? Like,
I have no idea. I'm just screaming into the void. Everyone's losing
like
their
you can
mind.
steal people's shit on TikTok and whatever. Like I see them doing like comedians' whole bits without crediting the comic, and they just have like and they're lip syncing it, and they're doing like a video. You seen this shit?
No, I'm not on TikTok like that.
Me either. I just get the like people post it on Instagram, and then when I can see it per day before I'm suspended for 7 hours, 12 hours, and then 30 days, and then deleted.
That's actually why I called you, Carl. So we went on vacation, and when I came back, I noticed that you were not on any of the social media, and I was like, oh no, something's happened to Carl.
Yeah.
So I was like, first, before I freaked out, thought something had happened to you, I texted you, or I checked the social media.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you don't have an account anymore.
Yeah, it said, what did it say? Like, user not found? Or
User not found. And I was like, okay, well, at least he didn't do anything crazy. He's not in prison or something like that.
I mean, they would paint that picture, though. And then they would be like, well, and people would go, I could see it. That's all they have to do. Like, you could post, like something that, like, an Alex Jones video and like a tweet from Candace Owens and then some like real footage like this, they won't let you see this, and then that's it. They'll be like they'll make up a whole fake story. He was about to plan the next insurrection.
What they do is like people don't go crazy anymore and do crazy stuff. What they do is they go back through their social media posts and say, well, he did it because he was an extremist, not just because he's a crazy person who did something.
Remember, didn't Chris Rock say that? Chris Rock said, whatever happened to crazy? Crazy? Remember good old crazy? Like, you can't even call people crazy anymore? That's crazy. Right?
I avoid calling people crazy. I want to hear what they have to say.
I don't.
Because people use that term too much.
But people, so they label like you and I would be crazy. And they'd be like, you're nuts if you believe that. I'm like, if you don't believe half of this shit, I think you're nuts.
I want to hear it. I want to hear both sides.
And that's the other thing, too. It's like, they'll go, you're such a close-minded, weird conspiracy theorist. They're like, wait, you think I'm close-minded because I'm open to the fact that your government is raping and pillaging you, and you're like, is this a globalist agenda? This is all narrow-minded thinking, you think?
Hey,
I know I sound like a nut job already. We're like 2 minutes in.
Okay. I asked you this before.
They'll be like, I see why they deleted his shit.
For people at home, Tony Bay is behind the camera operating, so you might see him in the mirrors, which we did not put up. This house came with all these mirrors.
These are the 70s porn mirrors, though. It's like Tarantino style. They're little textile and shit. I fucks with this. This house even has that vibe.
I think it might have
like
been
in
used.
the 70s, they were like, this is the spot.
I think
And
so.
it's got like good aim, like for...
That would not surprise me. This house has not been redone since like the 70s. The kitchen is still in 70s mode. I can deal with it, but like I see.
You can tell that they used that. But I will say that they thought about things more back then. I feel like now they're just building houses. You think that they built this house with that type of shit in mind? We're definitely shooting porn in this house.
It's the valley.
It's the valley,
It's
right?
the valley. Yeah. You see all these new houses they put up because they changed the laws where you can actually put houses on the property. You couldn't do that in this neighborhood before. So now they're tearing down these houses and they're putting up like 4 houses.
Like a quadplex, duplex thing?
There's 4 separate houses.
On one plot?
On one plot, yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it's all over the place now. But I'm like, Okay, we're going to get back to it. Carl, what exactly did you post that got you kicked off of Twitter and Instagram? What else did you get kicked off of?
They suspend me from Facebook every so often. And then Facebook gave me a message that when I posted something, it just said, we're limiting who can see the posts like these.
Limited to who and how?
Exactly. You can't ask questions. You can't, and you click like learn more to find out. And then you like click that shit and it doesn't say shit. It just says, yeah, we're doing this because we think you may have some influence on people's minds. or something. People are going to see your page, so we should limit who sees it. So Facebook is saying, oh, we're not even censoring speech. We're not censoring speech. They're just limiting the eyes who are on it. Then Instagram, who's their, whatever, I guess their dirty little baby, I guess, where they'll just try out all their new shit. Instagram, you could post something, like somebody could come on my page and say, you have the worst fucking opinions I've ever heard, you fucking clown, right? And I'll reply back, well, I think you're borderline retarded, right?
Appropriate.
And I get a flagged thing that says your reply goes against community standards, or this is similar to reports we've had of bullying and harassment.
Similar.
I was like, similar, okay. So then that's what I do. So like, within a week, I just call people losers and retards and things like that, because I'm like, how are you not seeing the same things I'm seeing? So when I repost something, I'll be like, are you fucking losers not aware of it? And it'll be like Seth Rogen posted about his car getting broke into 15 times, and it shouldn't be a big deal because I don't really think of it as an extension of myself, you know? And I was like, yeah, look at this fucking out of touch dude basically making fun of poor people, this fucking clown
Yeah, that's
bitch.
what he did. Yeah.
And I'll call people bitches and stuff like, and I don't mean like in the sense like, you know, degrading females or something. I mean like, you a bitch. Like that's just, I don't know, some Florida shit. I would use, everything's a bitch. But it specifically, I don't know what, because they even gave me this, and I showed Tony earlier. It says, is it something I could like show the wide or something?
That to me, and I'll put it on the screen.
Okay.
So they can see clear.
So this says, you haven't posted anything that's affecting your account status. However, what is account status? And it tells you. Well, you can find out if you post something that shouldn't be on Instagram and what it could mean for your account. Learn what you can do if something you post is taken down or if you don't agree with our decision. And then this third thing is fucking absurd. It says, we may still take down your account without warning if something you post is at risk to the Instagram community. Whose risk? What risk? Why? They don't list what it is. They don't know what, like, who is Instagram to manage anyone's risk? Like fucking Chadwick Boseman, right? Nobody knew besides his agent and his family that he was dying of cancer. And he shot 4 movies in that shit in that span of time, right? Was the government going to be his risk assessment manager and say that, he's got cancer, he can't shoot movies. He can't do this. He can't, like, these people were like living their lives with a death sentence, right? Mm-hmm. And now we're supposed to be like, government, big tech, everybody, you're all under the same risk assessment. So me and you can fucking figure skate, right? But you're in the same risk management assessment pool as an 80-year-old woman, according to the government.
They think I'm going to get the 80-year-old woman sick.
Yeah,
that's their, and it's new reasoning, because this is a shift. This was not 2019 reasoning. This happened last year, and they turned on a dime. Like, remember they were like in China, they shut down in China, and we said they could not do that here. Yeah. And they did it here.
Well, they called it racist first. They're like, we're going to shut down things and stuff like that. And they're like, well, that's crazy in China, and they must know what's going on. And they go, well, we should just stop travel from there and do a little bit, because it's kind of worrisome.
Makes sense.
But knowing what we knew, and then like how me being the conspiracy guy, I was like, bro, our government can pinpoint and triangulate a cell phone on some cave dweller's location and blow them up with a drone. And you're trying to tell me that they didn't know where this fucking thing came from? They funded the research. They tried to cover it up. The shit got out, and they're like, well, let's use this.
They are droning the wrong people a lot of the time, though.
Yeah, that's my point.
They mess it up, yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And that's like justified violence to them, and like, no, it's fine. We're a good regime. We're like, nobody can question shit. Like, no. And as soon as you call that stuff out and be like, hey, how about we don't listen to the people that accidentally drone strike people all the time when it comes to your basic health? And like, what? You're crazy.
I don't think we should listen to the American government on health, full stop, period. Americans are not a healthy people.
At all.
Like, they don't want to be either.
No, they want a pill to fix that. Like, I'm unhealthy as fuck. Don't you got a pill that fixes that? And they'd be like, yeah, like 50,000 meals ago. And like, if you can undrink all that alcohol and...
Don't bring the alcohol into this. But
I'm saying, we do drink. If you look at the stats, like we drink like the same as like Latvia.
Yeah, we don't drink as much as
And that's where
Scotland.
they make like Smirnoff or one of them shits. Stoli. They make Stoli in Latvia. Like we drink as much as that.
We drink.
And on top of that,
you can drink some.
But on top of that, everybody's obese.
Okay, the obese thing. I'm having more of a problem with the obese thing.
Yeah, but if we were skinny and fit and stuff like that, we could celebrate with some drinks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't like Americans live like they're all kings. That's why the kings and queens. Yes, queen, because everybody's trying to live like they're royalty, and nobody knows that they're peasants or NPCs in a video game. That's what they are.
We're not okay. I don't like using that term NPCs because that's not fair. But the monarchism, the people who love the monarchy, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like we escape from that. That's our
every
thing.
year they fucking watch the queen drive into some place or the royal wedding and they're obsessed with this type of shit. And then Meghan Markle, she's like, yes, dismantle that. I'm like, which side are you people on?
They want an oligarchy. They want an aristocracy. They just want it. They want it different.
Like, okay.
They like that. They like it, though. They like looking down on other people. They like telling people, oh, you're so broke, I don't have to listen to you.
Right.
Even broke people will be like, shut up, you're broke. It's like, you are broke. Like, what are you talking about?
So the conditioning for even that. So that's when it comes to status, right? When it comes to that. But when it gives people like a sense of importance, that sort of thing, give them a mini purpose with a task to do. They've indoctrinated kids to do that since elementary school. And this is one of my posts that like, I'll post something of my dog and get like 200 likes in like an hour. And I would post this thing where I'm just like talking shit about like the American school systems and pussy parents, right? Gets like 15 likes. And because this is what I said, tattletale, snitch ass, bitch made kids are conditioned and taught to be that, period. And how are they done that? In school, when they give them the safety patrols. Mm-hmm. When they gave these kids permission to tell on, yell at, and police other kids' behaviors for running on the grass, running in the halls. They were the risk managers back then. Like, look, and who are they now? The Karens. They are the pull your mask up over your nose. They're not following the excuse me, health department. They're the same people. Because what happened did you get rewarded with in 5th grade? If you were a great snitch and did everything right, we'll take you to Washington, D.C. and show you how to be a real good government kid. That's it.
I mean, well, that's
a snitch program to teach kids how to be indoctrinated. And how you said they love it. They want to be ruled. They want it. Everybody talks about an authoritarian, right? And they'd be like, oh, that's an authoritarian ruler. But nobody ever mentions the followers are the authoritarians. So they are the subjects that are like, yes, rule me. Tell me what to do. Give me a job.
They're afraid. They need parents. They need a replacement parent because they never were able to parent themselves and become aware of themselves and their own behavior. So they need someone to come in and replace them. I'm looking around the world though, and I'm seeing who is behaving and who is not by nation. Like,
you mean behaving? Like
behaving. Who's behaving and who's going along with it and who is not. Because some nations are not going along with it. And some whole nations are going completely insane.
My favorite so far is the Italians that are like, fuck y'all. They're like in the streets in Rome. They're like, fuck that green pass shit. Yeah. They're like having parties and stuff.
And they got it the worst.
And then Poland, they're like, not again. Austria, not again. Right? And then they're like, sign up for Germans love to be controlled. That's how like, World War I, they wanted to fight everybody, and then
Well-
World War II, they're like, let's fight everybody again. It was like,
Well, World War One is kind of iffy whether or not the Germans were as responsible. They were super responsible in World War Two as a result of World War One and that stuff. But World War One, that could have been like, we don't know exactly how that went. And some people are like, well, that was orchestrated, for certain reasons. Revisionist history, conspiracy history.
but that doesn't negate the fact that the German people, no matter what, are like, yes, they believe in the greater good. They believe in that whole, and that's why people don't understand Americans. And for the longest time, it was like frowned upon, embarrassing. We're like, oh, Americans are so loud and obnoxious abroad and all this stuff. Like, and they don't understand it because like we used to have a mentality like, it's a free country, Jack. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm American. And like we couldn't explain that feeling to other people. And now they made people like be ashamed of that feeling. And so now these people are like, well, it's not European to try and like be like that. Only Trumpers are like that. And then they've associated a certain type of people who like freedom with like a fringe group of Americans.
Yeah.
It's retarded.
it's
because they in
impressive.
America, especially in California and Los Angeles, if you like, I don't believe in fucking masks. I think masking kids is child abuse. I think making people check vaccines is absolutely dumb shit. And people will go, "You're a Trumper," and I go, "Really?" The rest of the world hasn't thought about Trump's fat ass for a year, and they're protesting this shit.
Yeah.
Please tell me what this has to do with Trump, you fucking retard.
In fact, Trump is going along
I'm
now.
probably so mad. Your audience is like, this guy's just retarded.
I'll put a warning at the beginning.
Because it is retardation, though.
It's
It's a
different.
mental lapse in like, if your brain is not developed in the same way and functioning like the rest of us, that's retarded.
But everybody's doing it. I would say it's retarded if everybody weren't doing it. Or not everybody. I would say here in Los Angeles, 60 to 70% are going along with it.
Yeah, and masking outside. It's
Yeah.
because they're afraid. They were told that this was a positive case was a death sentence.
And they believed it.
They were told that you could get sick and not even know it. And like, even a sniffle is a symptom. There's no such thing as asymptomatic spread. Just people had mild symptoms and they didn't care.
Yeah.
Like how the flu works, the colds work. That's it.
And honestly, you'd think that we would be less sensitive to it since it's been here since November 2019. So we pretty much had a cold and flu season that was probably all COVID. And it
But
didn't phase
they're in
us
a
until we
cult
found
now.
out.
They're in a cult.
They're
now.
in a...
I posted, I reshared like this kid that made this TikTok video that went viral, and I posted it. Maybe that was the thing. That was the same week. Maybe that was the thing they took down. But I said, you losers are clinging to this, where this guy made a song and a video, and it was like catchy and clever. Did you hear it? It was.
No, we
I'm
were on vacation.
I'm waxed, vax, wearing slacks. And like, you seen this shit?
No.
Okay, so he made this like song where talking about he's vaccinated, he's out and about, and then he has a line in it where it says, the CDC says I can relax, but I still wear my mask because I don't want people to think that I'm a Trump supporter. And that is the 70% that you're talking about, the same 63% that refused to recall the governor because they were afraid a Republican would be in the governor's seat. That's why. It's a virtue signal political statement.
Yeah.
So they're saying, if you're walking around outside with a mask, you're a Trumper. That's it. That's their only logic. And the people who refuse to do it are Florida. Obviously, that's a red state. Obviously that. But guess where all these fucking pansies went to vacation? Florida. When this place was shut down, Florida. Nancy Pelosi just bought a fucking mansion in Jupiter Island for $25 million.
Oh,
Why?
my God.
Because she shut down this state, stole our money, and there's a tax haven in Florida.
I do have to defend New England. That's where we went. We
Okay.
landed in Boston.
Okay.
Oh vaccine passports because the mayor at the time, the former mayor, she was just a stand-in. She was like, that's like showing your slave papers. So she came out on the record and said, we are not going to do what New York or LA is doing. Boston is the smartest city in the United States.
I was going to say Boston. Look what's there. MIT, Harvard, all these places with logical thinkers, right? But the rest of the people aren't complete morons.
No.
Except for like, the fucking stereotypical Southie, fucking those guys. But like Patriot fan, how are you going to have a franchise called the Patriots and then, be the anti-freedom place?
Oh no. And and then we went up to Maine and Vermont. In Maine. Maine
is different though, right?
It's different. It's mixed. It's like it's red and blue. They have a senator from each one.
Stephen King is Maine, right?
Bangor. We saw his house.
What the fuck is wrong with that guy? What the fuck is wrong with that guy? He's been championing against like anybody who's like against masks or vaccines is fucking crazy. Meanwhile, he literally writes like kiddie porn in all of his shits.
What
like,
is kiddie porn? Where's the kiddie porn?
There's an orgy in it that he won't talk about. Yeah.
The book?
And then he always goes,
I haven't read any of his books.
How come everybody wants to talk about the kid orgy? I'm like, because you wrote it, you fuck. People want to know why you wrote this. Why you keep asking me about it? And then he was like, I think the new movie should have had it in it. I was like, all right, dude. Maybe we should stop interviewing this fucking wacko.
Did you see that movie he made?
He made a movie?
He actually directed one movie. And he says
did it have fucking kids in it and doing fucking nasty shit?
No.
Surprising.
It was like Christine. It was like a truck that was conscious. But he says he doesn't remember directing it because he was too coked out at the time.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It's from the 80s. What's it called? Like
Maximum?
I think Maximum Overdrive.
Maximum Overdrive is the only movie he's ever directed.
Such a weird thing to even, like, fuck Stephen King. I'm going to say it right there. Fuck him.
If we end up moving there,
fuck Maine.
Okay, no, we're trying.
They got good lobster.
They got good lobster.
You want to move to Maine? You know how cold it is?
Yeah. We deal with cold.
Tony, you know how cold it is in Maine?
He tried to move me to an island off the coast that you
Island boy.
Oh,
He would have been out there. Boy, Tony would have been, I'm an island boy. But you're talking like one of those Nova Scotia islands where it's like fucking ice fishing and igloos and shit.
Not quite ice fishing. It's Vinyl Haven. There's got to be ice fishing in there, but yeah, there's lots of lobster fishing. Yeah.
Are you gonna be like sick of lobster? Or are you gonna be like, I could eat this forever?
I could eat it forever. No, but
all right, I'm jealous of that. You're gonna have to like freeze dry some.
Only times we were asked for a passport, vaccine pass when we were in Maine was to go to the symphony.
Okay.
So we didn't go to the symphony. To go
Which
to
is
theater.
dumb because they're blowing wind instruments in your face.
The theater we couldn't go to, and the weed shop, the weed restaurant we couldn't go to.
What?
We couldn't go to the weed restaurant, so we went to the other restaurant. So the specific place. Oh, and the comedy club we couldn't go to.
That's the shit. It has nothing. Why? Why can't you go to a comedy club?
Because we might be carriers, plague rats.
Nah.
Someone called us plague rats.
Because it's the last beacon of free speech behind closed doors. Organized groups listening to like whatever comes out of our mouths. That's it. There's no point in not having a comedy show if you could go to the grocery store, if you could go to a restaurant, if you could go.
We can't go to restaurants here, but yeah, I catch your point. There's places that have my art right now. I can't step foot in.
That's fucking crazy.
It's just
you're like I can't even go see my own painting.
I painted them. I know they're there. I'm just like that's where it is.
I got booked at some place. I won't say where it is, but I got booked and then was like, they asked me if I was back, and I was like, no. And they was like, yeah. I was like, so I'm not booked? Like, is this really going to happen? I was like, can I just ask you real quick, how many female comics and male comics that came in here have you tested for the HPV vax? Have they presented you with their Gardasil papers? How many of them are, tested for TB? Any of this stuff? No? Hepatitis? Nobody, right? Yeah, there's 1 million people walking around Los Angeles with AIDS. There's a sign that says 1 million in care.
In Los Angeles County.
I don't know.
Million?
It's on the billboard.
I don't know. I don't know if there's 1 million in Los Angeles County. That would be extreme. But I get your point. We do have tuberculosis outbreaks every once in a while.
Yeah, all the time. I'm just saying, like, literally people walking around with AIDS and they're straight. Like, well, not. I mean,
they could be. We don't know.
I mean,
they do anything.
I meant they were fine.
That's not what they got going on. None of our business. But they do have AIDS.
So,
that's what we're concerned about.
It's just like the level of propaganda that they'll go, like, is absurd. But for specifically like social media and like how you can perceive things and see stuff, there's so many people that's like, I don't even watch the news. I'm like, okay, well, how do you get this information that you're regurgitating to me? Like,
people, their friends repeat it because their friends watch the news. It really goes by word of mouth a lot of the time because people just repeat things.
And they're like, did you know that this? And I'm like, but that's not true.
So to that point, we are in numerous mass psychosis right now.
Yeah.
This COVID thing happens to be one of them, and there's people from either side. There's the COVIDiots, which are people who don't think it's real. And then there's the Branch Covidians, which is one of my favorite terms.
That's great. They're never letting it go. That's the Branch Covidians.
Those are the people who I think were already a little anxious.
Those are the double masking hypochondriacs, social anxieties that now they're just hiding behind COVID and using it. Those are the most dangerous.
You think they're the most dangerous? Do you blame them for your deplatforming? Do you think somebody actually reported you for
Well,
what you said
I
about
blame my
COVID?
mouth.
Yeah.
Probably, like, for the most part. I mean, like, just the thing is, people don't think that I really talk like this.
Oh, you do.
So like, I type how I talk. Well, I'd be like, you fucking loser retards. Like, and then people are like, oh, he actually talks like that. Like, I just, like, for a while, I was like, man, I should just make videos of what I'm saying.
Yes.
Instead of writing what I'm saying so that they can't, like, pinpoint it. And then I'll just be like, they misheard me. You know, like, captions are auto-generated anyways. So,
Carl, do you remember when you accused a specific comedian of killing his wife? Don't say the name.
Oh, yeah, he killed that bitch.
This is why, Carl. They don't know you. They don't know you like that. Like, they don't know you have a good heart. They see these things and they think, oh, maybe he's trying to hurt other people.
No, I'm just saying, like, I kind of like, if there was a true crime podcast about it, I mean, nobody's really asking questions, but there should be, is what I'm saying. Like, only murders in the building type shit needs to happen with wife. Like, they need to dig that case up. Cold case.
You have evidence that he did this?
No.
Okay.
I mean, come on. I'm that's gonna be my Sandy Hook. That's gonna be my. Look, I mean, they can't all be winners, all right? The globalists are infiltrating everything. That's my one I get wrong. But what if?
It's a huge accusation, though.
All right.
Okay.
You just bleep it. Just bleep it.
I'm gonna have to bleep the name because I'm like, because when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
When I saw, I was like, oh yeah, finally. I'm surprised it took them this long, but. Do you think it had something to do with the change in ownership or CEO at Twitter?
I mean, it all happened the same week. And there's been a lot of things, like, people say that they're purging accounts and stuff. And I heard, like, these, like, rumors about it. But I was like, yeah, I'm so low totem pole. Like, nobody's going to give a fuck. Like, who's watching my shit? But I have blue check people watching my stuff. But yeah. I just think... I don't know. Maybe I rubbed somebody the wrong way.
Do you think somebody actually went in and reported you to Twitter?
Yeah, because I've had a couple of things that they'll be like, this violates our terms, and I'll be like, well, I disagree. I'll just say, like, so I had like 3 things under review, and I think they were just like tweets, like just like comments.
What were they?
There was more of the same shit. Somebody calling, like, somebody said something to me where I was just like, yeah, well, you're a fucking retard, and this is why. And then I'll like lay out like a bunch of, and then tell them why they're stupid or some. And it seems like I'm being mean to them, but I'm really just like, hopefully this will educate you, because no, that's not true. Here, stupid.
But you know that's not going to get people to actually listen if you call them stupid. You have to.
Nah.
They're not going to listen if you call them stupid.
Well, here's
wanna
what I
change
hope
their
happens.
mind?
No. Here's what I hope
don't.
happens. I hope they go and tell their friend, can you believe this guy said this? Because, and then they have to tell it out loud. And then their friend will go, this guy's who? And they check me out.
Because they know they're retarded.
Yeah, because they'll be like, yeah, you are
is.
kind of retarded, dude. Like, if you think of the dumbest person you know, right? Like, you'd be like, wow, how do they even live? You got them in your head?
Yeah.
Okay. 60% of America is dumber than that. That's why we're still in this shit.
I don't know about 60%.
Oh, really?
Are we talking IQ or are we talking about lived experience? Are we
All
talking
of
about... Because
Dumber.
IQ is different.
No, because stupidity is like when you're presented with the information, right? Refuse to believe it and still do the same thing. That's stupidity, right? So 70%, 65% of America is dumber than the dumbest person you know.
I don't know if it's necessarily that they're
You can
dumb.
drive down the street, right? And there's a fucking line of cars in one lane, and then the lane is open right next to them. Like, how come nobody's in this lane? They're retards. They have mental retardation.
Everybody can't be retarded, though, because if everybody is retarded, then that ceases to be retarded. That just becomes normal.
That's exactly what social media has done. Everybody's famous, so nobody is. It's the same thing. Everybody's retarded, so we can't say the word anymore. Do you get it now? They're retarded.
Okay. We're gonna have to disagree on whether or not everybody is retarded. We could say they're badly educated.
But here's my thing about social media and it being weaponized in the sense that like they deplatformed people like Alex Jones, like I mean even Owen Benjamin, and he's like since moved to Montana or wherever he lives in the woods, like he's doing his own thing. I mean, good for Owen. But they deplatformed people that they thought were the word influencer that they use was a made up marketing term for Viners that now sell shit. It started with Vine because I had like 80,000 followers on Vine, and I used to make fun of all the Viners. And I never did the shameless plug stuff of like, sup guys, make sure you follow me on Snapbook and FaceChat and like all that shit. Like I used to make Vines like that, just making fun of it. But I never carried over my following because I was like having too much fun making fun of that shit.
Yeah.
But out of that became what we now know as influencers, because they used to have a film crew, an AD, all this stuff, and they'd have to pay them. Then the ad agency would have to pay this. So Target would pay $3 million for a 30-second ad and have to pay actors, and they get residuals and all this shit. And then Vine came along, and they're like, this kid can reach 1 million people in 7 seconds, and I just have to pay him $40,000 once? Who's better than them? And so they just started this influence, and they called them influencers because they were going to influence what people buy because they can reach them like that. But the real influencers were the Alex Joneses and people that had shit to say, that were exposing shit, and they were scared of them. And that's why they deplatformed, Alex Jones and stuff like that. Because, yeah, he was wrong and fucked up about Sandy Hook.
And a few other things.
Right. But the fact that the new CNN is on and they could go to court and you can sue them and they go, well, it's just entertainment.
That's true.
Fox News has been sued so many times and they go, well, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, these are just entertainers. Bill O'Reilly, they said the same thing. He's just an entertainer. I was like, okay, so why would they deplatform somebody who's not on network or cable television? Why would they try and take that away? And that's when I started thinking, like, they don't want them to make money off of what they've been making money off of. And that was the first time I was just like, whoa. And then everybody, they got them all on board to go, it's a private company. It's a private company. I was like, okay. So then they moved elsewhere where nobody's bothering them, their own websites and that shit. And they're still dragging them up and being like, oh, Alex Jones, look, this person listens to Alex Jones. They're a far right extremist. And they start labeling people just because you would like, they would see your search history or something like that. And like so on Instagram, they'll be like, we suggest you follow this person. And I'm like, how do they know that I even know that person? They're not even in my phone. Like, I don't even have their number saved. So the little shit like that will make you know that, like, okay, they're aware of the things you search and the things you watch and the videos you look at. So they want to limit the eyes that could even possibly do this shit. So to quote the now sellout Rage Against the Machine, they don't got to burn the books. They just remove them. Mm-hmm. And it started with like, okay, Huck Finn in school or To Kill a Mockingbird. And they were taking books away. And you're like, why? And it was under the guise of this shit of like racism and wokeness and all that stuff. But that's all the Chinese CCP fucking communist Russian KGB shit. They will tell us that our country is so racist against each other. We should fight amongst each other. Meanwhile, they don't let black people in fucking McDonald's in China. And they have the audacity to like literally pump out propaganda on TikTok and tell these young kids that like, you're so racist, you don't know your history. And they just repeat this bullshit.
They repeat the talking points, yeah.
It's bullshit. It's made up. Like, so then they have these kids who haven't even gone to college or just now going to college with this Marxist sort of fringe ideology that dismantle the system. It's almost like they're anarchists, but not, that they don't know that they are. They're screaming for things of like, destroy the patriarchy and all this, but they don't know why they're saying these things. And they're angry at the people who get deplatformed because that's what the system told them to be angry at. They're getting angry at the people who share things that aren't that narrative because they're going along with the other stuff. So like people that come to my account or see my page or share my stuff always say, yo, keep it up. You're like, this is so, I can't believe they're doing this. And then I realize that as soon as they take that shit away, a bunch of people start going, man, where am I going to get that type of news from? Oh well. And then they'll move on.
Well, yeah.
And then they'll move on and they won't see that stuff anymore. And that's it. That's all these companies have to do. They're acting as the arm of the government.
Yeah, they
and
are.
Oligarchy. They're acting as this Goebbels propaganda arm of a government.
Yes, I agree with you there. When you say they, though, because what you're talking about goes all the way back to at least Snowden.
Yeah.
So who is the they?
The they in this, the royal they, would be the big tech oligarchy that's in cahoots with big pharma, are both legislative and executive branch, and now our Supreme Court is even, and you were like, what the fuck? They're upholding this type of shit? The fact that we spent so much time on this like Kavanaugh shit and all this, and he's actually passed like the most liberal sort of things or uphold those decisions and stuff, and like the stuff that they like in the cliche way, like those are all distractions that they show us. Like the stuff that they make us distracted by, I'm saying, big tech acting on the arm of our government on their behalf. They being this royal they of this oligarchy of autocrats that they want to be the elite ruling class.
Yes, they do.
And the way that communism works, or even in the social, like the in Stalin or any of these, they think if they go along and usher in the agenda, that they'll get taken care of, that they'll be part of it.
They won't be
that
punished.
They won't be punished.
Yeah.
That they won't. That's not going to happen to me, but sure, you go ahead. And they're finding out it ain't the case. Little by little, they eat their own.
Yes.
And so whether it's like, all right, you're not following, you're not complying, somebody else.
Because they do comply. They do comply, and they're not really compelled to comply. Now, I do think there are some accounts that we've seen that are paid, that are deliberately paid to stir the pot, to be the guy in the crowd. Yeah, the fake activists in the crowd. But we see a lot of people, which is what's most troubling for me, they don't have to be threatened.
Yeah.
They're just doing it because
They think it's right.
They think it's right.
And the sad part is during this COVID shit, I've seen a lot of comedians do this. And like I signed up for comedy after playing college and pro football and like trying to, well, what am I going to do in life? And then like falling back on like my talent and skill. I'm like, dude, I've always been funny. Let me try stand up and shit. And that's what I've been doing for the last decade. And then during COVID, it was all this like rule following and stuff. I was like, yeah, that's why I signed up for comedy. All the rules. Like, no, aren't you guys supposed to be the rebels of society?
Well, I remember this started in earnest under Trump. Before COVID, they came out against Trump. Like the funniest comedians who used to be super funny prior to Trump, like Colbert, I won't name names, but Jim Jeffries, all these people, even John Oliver. He used to be a funny guy. And then with Trump, they started to get more and more into their tribe. And then COVID came along and fit in with it as well.
Yeah. And that was the saddest part for me, is watching a guy like Colbert do the tequila dance with the syringes behind
shots.
him going, vaccine. Dun, 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 dun. And I'm like, are you kidding? Is this a fucking Chinese propaganda show? Like, this is what you would see, like some Asian show, like with subtitles on the bottom, like, like some Japanese game show or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Is this Colbert? And then I started to see that again, like just how you said, the tribalism stuff. Like John Oliver had an entire episode about Kavanaugh. That like I was watching John Oliver and then I was like, okay, why are you rallying so hard against this guy? Because he didn't remember some fucking drunk night when he was in high school, like,
Wow.
And they had a whole hour about like this, and he was like, this is the type of people they are, and this is the white privilege, and I'm like, this is garbage. I'm like, dude, what are you like? I started to see, and I was like, okay. And I kind of like took a step back from like, okay, am I in this bubble too? Am I repeating on the same shit? Like,
That's a fair question to ask anytime.
you know, so I like stepped back because I used to rally against Trump too. Because I'm like, this fat fucking reality show host, this is what we're dealing with?
Well, he's awful.
Right. Awful. Objectively awful. And
Yeah.
But then I started to see like, okay, this is more than we're razzing the president like we always did. This is way worse than that. This is like a cult of personality where if you don't align with the identity politics and the identity, it's like, it was literally like teams. It was really like, and I was like, I don't know, I'm politically homeless in this shit. Like Bridget Fettisy's thing. Like I was literally going, where do I even fit in? I don't like this fat asshole, but I definitely don't like the slope that we're going down. Like they tried to tell people that during the COVID shit, during the election, when Trump was like selling out arenas and Joe Biden couldn't get like 16 people in front of him, that somehow this fool was getting 81 million votes. And then they had the audacity to gaslight these people like everything was up on the up and up and stuff. And like these people already don't like y'all. You're going to gaslight them to know, like they're watching the elections like a hawk. And then you guys fucked around in Georgia, you fucked around in this other state. And then you tell these people that they have no reason for concern. They knew what they were doing. That's how that insurrection shit was staged and planned. Like they knew all this shit was going to happen. You can lead them to a fire. You can poke and prod people and actually know, because they study it in the CIA and they know how people are going to react. They've created whole revolutions in countries by just, you know, one chain of event that happens. So they know like human behavior and their psychoses that is unraveled within the last year. And that January 6th shit was the biggest hilarious thing that I was watching them guide them in a single file line inside of there, and they're like taking pictures, and they all got like the media is all around them and shit, like all took, like how did we get the pictures of it? They're not selfie videos. It was literally like people with like, look at these freaks inside, and they all have press badges.
The press
on
badges,
shit.
yeah.
And I'm like, this is so staged. Like, what are you people scared of?
I don't know how.
No guns?
Have you seen the Reuters the pictures? Because there are thousands of people swarming the Capitol.
That's
It's not
outside,
just-
though.
Yeah, they're outside. And they're climbing the walls.
But the Capitol Police did a good job of shooting the people who were trying to get in with that they didn't let in.
They shot when she was already inside and she was trying to get into another room. That's
Right.
when they shot her.
Right.
That
So then,
that was not.
where did everybody else go? They funneled in where they told them to
Yeah.
go, because there would have been panic if they did that. They shot as soon as they shot. What's her name? It's not like a bunch of people went. He just shot her. Get him. They're just like, we see your point, bro. We're gonna go the other way.
Yeah.
No, nobody like grabbed that dude and beat the shit out of him because he shot that girl. They were
No.
like, yeah, I guess that's what's gonna happen to us. We're gonna go the other way.
I do have to say that one of the reasons Trump didn't actually win is because he told his people not to do the mail-in ballots. That election makes sense when you think that it was a referendum on Donald Trump. It wasn't a pro-Joe Biden. I don't know of anybody who was gung-ho for Joe Biden. What they were was anti-Trump.
Yeah, but
if
not
you're
81
running-
million votes. though.
Yeah. If you're going on, I am hated by most people. And that's your thing, is that everybody hates me. You should not be surprised when you don't win the election.
I could see that, but it would have been way closer, and Biden wouldn't have had that many. They're like, the most people voted ever. You know how many people I talked to are like, I didn't vote at all.
Well, still, a lot of people don't vote. We have a lot of people who don't vote
Yeah,
year to
so
year.
I'm like, okay, well, they didn't vote. I was like, where are they getting this number from? And even still, 81 million votes for them, and like, how many Trump had? They say like 50 million or
No,
something.
that was close. It was like 81 to 84.
Well, I don't know about that. I think after they changed it, they said he only had like 60 million or something like that. But even still, that's 130 million people, right? Some shit like that. 160 maybe.
No, I think it was very close.
So Trump lost not just the popular. What he actually lost was a few tens of thousands of votes in specific places.
Right.
And that's what it comes down to. So the popular is one thing, and the way we do the electoral college is another. Now, I do believe he lost that election.
And real quick, you got to consider that there hasn't been a Republican elected with the popular vote in a long time.
Well,
For a first term, I guess. Whatever.
first-term Republican hasn't been elected
But
with the
he didn't
popular
win
vote since
popular vote.
Bush.
He didn't win the popular vote the first time.
Yeah, he didn't win the popular vote the first time. He is not a liked man. Like when you start,
But he
moving up.
was. The point being is that he was popular. The only reason he is popular is because he was popular.
Yeah.
For 40 years, he was on television. He was in 386 rap songs.
Yeah.
All of them like Trump money, blah, 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 Trump. Yeah, what's up, Trump? He's on Howard Stern. He's on all these places. He's the cool guy. Man, I can't wait to grow up. I'll be like Trump. And then what happened? He ran for president. And all of a sudden he was racist. All of a sudden he was everything. Right.
He started by saying some racist thing about Mexicans.
Yeah, but my
Taking that
roommate
out
at
of
the time,
context.
so I was like that. I was hardcore rallying against Trump on the left. I got in an argument with my literally from Mexico roommate, right? And he said, well, I was like, dude, how could you vote for that? Because he voted for Trump. I was like, how the fuck could you vote for a guy who says like, Mexico is not sending their best. If you look who's coming over, they're rapists. And he goes, yeah, he's not lying. I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, if you're the best, why the fuck would you leave Mexico? I go, yeah, I never thought of it like that.
Well, so our relatives came over here, the Irish and the Germans who came over here. They were not the best of their country either. They were fleeing. They were tired, hungry, poor, et cetera, et cetera.
So the point being though that it's even now, right? They asked Fauci the other day, you really going to make people on domestic travel have like vaccine passports and all this stuff? He goes, what about the 2 million people we just saw come across the border? And he goes, well, that's a different situation. I'm like, why is that different? And to say that that's racist to talk about immigration, or when you talk about banning flights from a certain place to not risk your people, your nation of people, that's xenophobic and stuff. But when the left does it, it's not. The hypocrisy knows no bounds when it comes to the left. And to act like Trump wasn't popular before the 2016 election is retarded.
He wasn't well liked.
It's not.
We're not going to elect Jay-Z for president either. When you look
the
at
way we going down this
mainstream,
fucking path, we might. These people love celebrity and they love money.
I'll go with The Rock, but I think
But
his history
that's
with
their only
women-
validation. It's like, well, he's a celebrity and he's rich.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all these people like. It goes back to what we were talking about before. These fat Americans just want to sit around and act like they're kings. So who do they relate to? The Kardashians and the Trumps? That's it. It's a bunch of keeping up with the Joneses all the time. For what?
We're worse than we were in the keeping up with the Jones era.
Way
though.
worse, because they look at, because of social media, because like they'll see in the Instagram model from the Instagram house, and they're like, oh my God, did you know you can have this? I'm like, everybody is jealous of the next thing that they didn't know they needed or wanted anyway. And on top of that, they told you can have it just like the rich people can have it. With an app, with this. They convinced poor people to use their cars and do this shit, to go shopping and go drive around other people and shit. Uber, they don't even make a product, and yet they're like the largest car company in America.
Well, this is the thing about a lot of it, or at least with Uber, is when they had cemented the taxi permits. So it's really hard to get a taxi permit. So people couldn't get a taxi permit. So somehow Uber got around it. So if they had made that more open, so more people could get a taxi permit and we could have more cabs, then Uber wouldn't have been a necessity.
So that goes back to regulation and government kills human spirit, entrepreneurship, all that. And they have the audacity, and that's it. I keep going back to this. This is why I say this, and it's a cliche phrase now because a lot of people say it, but like, I didn't leave the left. The left left me. I cared about the same things. I didn't stop caring about workers' rights, union stuff. I didn't stop caring about regular citizens and people like that. The left stopped. And all they do is pander, act like they care, self-censor, and run their own self-PR firms, and then think that that is populism.
Well, the left has been taken over by a different wing of corporations, and the right was taken over by the industrialists. It always has been. So both sides are taken over by corporate interests. We see now that there are a lot of people who do want something else, and it's just not there. What do you think about Andrew Yang?
I think he's a bit of a plant.
You think he's a plant?
Well, I think he championed and argued the universal basic income and like, hey, robots are coming. Hey, this, like, he is the guy to help program and condition you that you're a non-essential worker. He's the guy that would help you do. Yeah, we need a third party. It's the forward party. I'm like, no, we need the liberty party. We need freedom. We don't need moving forward with this agenda.
Yeah.
His whole thing is like, we're going in this direction, so we might as well. That's why I called it the forward party. It's like communism optimized or something. They put out these articles to tell you like walkable cities. There's because they don't want you to own a car.
Walkable cities are a good idea in general.
Are they?
That's something a lot of the rest of the country doesn't appreciate, is having sidewalks everywhere. Like in New England, there's sidewalks everywhere. You have to be able to walk.
Well, we have them here. You just can't walk on them because there's bums on them.
There's bums on them, and a lot of places there's no sidewalks. Up on that other road, there's no sidewalks. It's just not. It's not considered a necessity here. Because it was built around the car.
It was, this was built around the car in the 50s. But that's why this place is not designed for the politics that they are trying to push for. Yeah. They want to drastically change infrastructure, all this stuff, and then throw stuff in the infrastructure bill like, we need 80,000 more IRS agents. Why?
Which is nonsense.
Why? Think about what just happened in the past 2 years. What happened during COVID? Well, a bunch of people couldn't go to work, so they sat around and they studied the stock market. And then they stuck it to the stock market with GameStop and AMC and shit. And what happened? The big boys up top halted it, and now they're being sued. The SEC and all this shit is involved. And they tried to game the system that they always get gamed at. So they're like, the little guy can't win, so let's change that.
So you think then, it's a direct result of
crypto and NFTs happened in the same 2 year span of time. Crypto and NFTs ballooned during COVID. Fucking teenagers to 20-something-year-olds are now millionaires from this shit. Well, better roll out those 80,000 IRS agents because that's who's getting audited. It's not a bunch of rich people are about to get audited. It's a bunch of kids who made money off of crypto and NFTs and shit. You're 18, boom, time to get that tax money that you've been hiding.
Yeah.
That's it.
They're
They
gonna
have
audit
no
the middle
intent.
class.
They're talking about monitoring transactions over $600. How about you monitor the goddamn Senate's transactions and stuff? Or how every time there's infrastructure before, right? They printed money in the past 12 months. Every time there's infrastructure before, or they lie about it, they're like, we need for roads and schools and stuff like that. Anytime they want to pass something, raise state tax, it's for schools and infrastructure. Medical marijuana stuff, it goes to state. It'll be to build the schools and our roads and stuff. And then our schools are the worst in the fucking world, and the goddamn bridges and roads are crumbling, and like, hey, where did all the money for the schools and roads and bridges go? And they're like, oh, we don't know.
You mean you're talking about California specifically, or
I'm talking about
the United
America,
States?
but California is just, you can specifically look at it. It's had 20 years of democratic policies that haven't worked. And you'll be like, what is this?
But you know what? There are other states who are democratic who're doing pretty well. Vermont's doing okay.
There's like 10 people there.
There are like 10 people there. But so you're saying that California should be run, I don't understand what you're saying. Should be run as
with less
Republican or
less government, because the
Yeah.
Republicans have the audacity to claim that they're for small government, and they're not.
No.
All they do is fight the Democrats and then give them a little leeway on this, and then they end up signing the same bills that are just like with some of the fat out of it, but they still expand the government beyond belief.
Yeah. As far as specifically with the school thing, it's interesting because that seems to go from state to state, district to district. Our public schools vary so widely in the quality. I've noticed California's no good.
They're 32nd in the nation.
Oh, that makes sense. But states like Massachusetts, their public schools
Like
are quite
number one.
good. Yeah.
It's night and day though.
Yeah.
And then they have the audacity to shit on Florida. And I was educated in Florida. I went to college in Florida. I went to Temple in Philly, but I transferred
you
back
went to
home
Temple.
for 2 years, and then I transferred back home. But being educated in Florida, went to public school, all this, they tried to tell me like what I learned. Like in California, they will tell me what I learned. Like, oh, well, like critical race theory. Oh, they're just not trying to teach that. And I was like, in Florida, we learned about what shit y'all don't even learn about. You didn't learn about Reconstruction. You didn't learn about Black Wall Street until they made a Watchmen HBO episode. You fucking liars.
A lot of times they don't retain information. A lot of
Yeah, but
people they learn it, they don't retain it. And
Yeah, but
it's
they
up to
also
the
like
individual.
tell people
Yeah.
from other places what they've learned and stuff. I'm like, no. You didn't learn that in your
Yeah.
32nd ranked public education. What did you guys learn about? The Pueblos and fucking clay huts and shit out here? Or like, I don't know what they teach them out
I
here.
don't know. I didn't go to school out here.
But I do
God.
know that before COVID, they were 32nd in education, and they've had schools shut down for 2 years, and they haven't ranked them since. Did you think schools got better in that time? That kids have had remote learning and not seeing faces and being masked? Do you think they got smarter in California? Hell no.
no.
So on schools, they have now weaponized parents going into schools as they are like terrorists now.
Yeah.
They literally use the Department of Justice and FBI tactics to say that these parents are now domestic terrorists.
That's scary.
By trying to make sure that the local school boards are teaching their kids proper things. And they're just having to fight school boards to be like, yo, teach our kids math. Teach our kids how to read instead of what their gender identity is. It's not that we don't care about accepting trans people or any of that shit. It's that my kid don't need to know that shit before they can fucking read.
Yeah, and the math thing is a major problem in the United States.
And the fact that we have the audacity to praise tech companies and all this stuff, but we don't know how to code and do math or any of this shit that these kids should be learning.
Well, this is what someone had said to me earlier, because we're with Tony's niece, and they're like, "Oh, she's so smart. She's good at this stuff." And I'm like, "Well, she doesn't know the HTML or any of the code behind it. She just knows how to press the button. And
Right.
God forbid the button doesn't work, because she couldn't fix it if it came down to
Exactly.
it." Which is why I think the millennials actually have that advantage, because we saw before and after.
So we know like what went into it or how deconstruct things backwards, because we saw each step of the process. So like, hey, they added this, they added this part.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just a camera with this on it. And like, these people have no idea that these are from, like, phones are for telephone calls. Like a phone is like, they're like, oh, it rings sometimes too.
Well, they're afraid of making calls. They're afraid of talking to people, which is a new development, at least in my lifetime, where it went from kids would spend hours on the phone to being too afraid to have a conversation on the phone.
Right. Like,
they go to texting, which is, now I'm like, okay, now they're messing with norms. Now I don't know what kids are going to be like in 20 years.
Right. And so like, when it comes to why, obviously we're just going to go back to like the social media aspect of this, is like, that's who's indoctrinating your kids. The tablet, the social media, your phone, the one they'd be like, so my friends with kids all the time, like, they'll have their phone and the kid will take it or grab for it or something like that. And they'll just like give it, who's like, whatever, it keeps them busy. And I'm like, no, stop that shit. Because because if it was like some sort of toy that was mindless or whatever, sure, I get it. But at the same time, like, the screen in front, we've already seen like plenty of studies that like being in front of your screen working for hours and like the blue screen like is damaging to, these are kids are like developing now. Like they haven't even developed yet. Like, remember they used to be like, don't sit too close to the TV because it'll like,
well, that's what we were
never
by the TV.
We never let our kids, even my parents never let us like just be like that. We couldn't be like wasteful in front of and mindless in front of a TV for hours or like, we just couldn't. I felt like there was more parenting involved.
You may have had good parents. A lot of people I know were raised by television.
Like, that was the babysitter.
The television was a babysitter because they had to work.
No, so when I came home from school, it was like that, but we also would play outside.
Yes.
So I was a latchkey kid. I couldn't go outside till my parents came home, right? So like, hurry up and get home. Then I could go outside and play. So in the meantime, yeah, I watched like Fox Kids cartoons, but it was probably like 2 hours of doing it.
Really? Because even going back 20 years, kids were in front of the TV for like 4 to 6 hours.
Yeah, that's like...
That was normal. And you escaped it, which is probably why you're in a better position now.
Even then, it was like... I would say... I don't want to say like we were conditioned to see stuff, but like we knew stuff were ads. We knew stuff were like... There was stuff presented to us as like, this is a commercial. Now we're going to read the news. Here's the, right? Now, like, they've meshed everything as one. You could see a news post on there and it'll say like #ad. And like halfway through watching something, you're like, I didn't know this was an ad.
Truman Show. Or, like the Truman Show.
Dude, it's fucking weird.
Yeah.
Or Minority Report, where like he's walking through the mall and they just say your name and they're like, hey, good morning, Mr. Anderson. Would you like some? And I'm like, that's how the shit is on my phone. Like, how do you know I was looking at watches? This is crazy. I Google search a watch. Now my whole Instagram feed is watches. Like, what the fuck? And it's really weird that parents just, obviously, like, I'm not one for like, you know, super parental controls over everything, but like, it's really weird to me that parents just like, oh, here you go. And they just like have this endless, like, the companies know that I can just get to the kids. We used to have to get past the parents first. Used to have to like convince the parents, like, they need this. Your kid needs to buy this or whatever. And like, Mom, please buy me this. Now it's like they're seeing it in real time. They can just buy shit on the phone, like play Fortnite. They can do all these like micro things. Like this one girl, she was like, yeah, my kid spends like $60 a week on Fortnite. I was like, what? It's a free game. What is he buying? Cosmetic skin so his player can look better.
That's an interesting
And she was like, it keeps him, but it's what he likes. It keeps him busy. I was like, you're spending $60 a week on the same game. I was like, you're keeping that company in business.
Yeah.
Like, these parents are mindlessly doing this and their kids are just hit the button. Psh, that's all they know. And they're like, what do you mean, Mom? You can't give me $5? So like the value of money is like, they don't understand it. Everything is diminished and desensitized by a screen. And we say that we're like desensitized when we're talking about like sex and violence and stuff like that. But things like the value of money or social cues or like how to love, things like that these kids are desensitized by it, and then on top of that are indoctrinated with this straight Russian KGB Chinese communist propaganda that they'll infuse into. Like, there's kids at Arizona State University the other day having a protest with "Death to America" signs. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's a bit extreme.
leave.
Well,
What are you
we never want
doing?
to tell anybody to leave. 'cause
Yeah,
don't
we
have the
do.
right to
Fuck 'em.
tell
We used to
anybody
tell
leave.
everybody it's a free country. Get the fuck out if you don't like it.
No, but everyone's allowed to have an opinion.
Are they?
Whether or not we agree with it. Yeah, of course. It's a free country.
Well, not anymore. I'm not allowed to have one on
On Instagram or Twitter. But
I'm
you
saying,
did also.
we used to be able to say, like, the thing about opinions, they're like assholes. Everybody's got one.
'em.
Except now they don't. You'll meet somebody who's like, I don't have an asshole.
So to that point, at the beginning, we could not say that COVID had come from a lab.
I said it like day 2.
There's a chance it did, and then they had that wet market report. Remember?
Too
That wet
fast.
report.
And
Yeah, it came
everybody
out
went
very
in. And
fast.
that's why I hated the hack comedians that all were like bat soup. It came from bats and wet. So I was like, you really think somebody bit a bat and the whole world got sick? Again, retardation.
Well, what
it's
about
like,
AIDS?
but how fast? Yeah, but that was like Chappelle's joke when he was like, y'all think somebody fucked a monkey and got AIDS? Word? Like, this is the same shit. I'm like, really? Word? How did they come up with wet markets, bats, all that so fast? Because they planned it. In 2015, that's how they were doing the experiments.
No, it could. Okay, here's where I'm at, and I'm gonna let you finish, but I gotta check you real quick.
Okay.
They could be opportunists, and they see that it got out because stuff gets out of labs. Maybe it came from a wet market.
The World
Stuff
Health
gets out of
Summit.
labs.
At the World Health Summit
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, the CEO of Merck was in front of the panel on the mic and said, 2 years ago, if we tried to introduce gene therapy shots for the general population, we would have a 95% refusal rate.
Yeah.
But, I think you're opening people's eyes to innovation and stuff. I'm like, innovation? Name one thing innovative that had a 95% refusal rate ever in society. Not even the electric car nowadays. That 95% refusal rate.
But to say
So they know this is a gene therapy mRNA shot. And they know that nobody else would ever take this unless they were coerced or told this was the way out.
Now, we're on the same page here, so we don't disagree by much, but here I am, is that it could have just been opportunists.
No.
To say that it was planned from the jump.
Event 201. Johns Hopkins University, World Economic Forum. What's his name? Klaus.
Yeah,
What's his
Klaus, the Great Reset.
You can buy the book.
You can download it for free.
You can get the book. It's like, hold it in your hands. You can get it on Audible, whatever. You can get the book. COVID-19, The Great Reset. Dude wrote a book about the shit. You know who he is? The head of the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, you can get the PDF for free online if you want to print it yourself. You can read
You
it and
can
make
look
your
up
own.
Event 201, which the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Johns Hopkins University, World Economic Forum, and a couple of other societies and what's the word I'm looking for?
Institutions?
Organizations
Organizations.
could literally planned the pandemic simulation, and in lockstep, everything's gone as planned.
But they have been planning
T.
pandemic situations for a long time.
Yeah?
Even Obama had.
where
yeah,
did
because
where did Omicron come from? The name
it's a Greek letter in the alphabet. No,
Omega is that,
Omicron doesn't it come after like Nu or Z?
but how did it skip everything else? Because it's on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
On their website, on Event 201, it lists by month the variants that they would have and what they would name them.
But this can be predicted and modeled.
Predicted?
This can be modeled because we do get pandemics every 100 years or so, every few hundred years or so. We have a long history of pandemics. Much of them are much worse than the one we have currently.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. This was a plandemic. This was an orchestrated. If we do this, we can then shift the term. In 2015, they changed the definition in Merriam-Webster's dictionary of vaccine.
No, and I understand.
During the pandemic, they changed the
Absolutely.
definition of herd immunity.
Yes.
Changing the definitions of words to make new meanings so you can usher in an agenda is the most sci-fi totalitarian thing you can make for an argument of look at this global agenda.
Well, it could also be that something is going to happen. We can assume something will happen because things don't always go smoothly. And then how do we use it to our advantage?
I knew shit was fucking going crazy as soon as the government was like, aliens are real. And I was like, yeah, this is Snowpiercer's coming.
Oh, that movie was so bad. You didn't really like that movie, did you?
You don't like Snowpiercer?
It was so on the nose.
Yeah, that's why it's
It was
good.
so literal. We do see the shifting standards in social media. We couldn't talk about that it came from a lab. And then once it became apparent that it may have come from a lab, and they still can't find the bat that someone
I got
supposedly
suspended from Facebook for 30 days.
Oh, yeah?
For saying this is made in a lab. It came from Wuhan, China. I said, I was one of the first people that even talked about it because nobody even cared. I made a joke that said, Wuhan clan ain't nothing to fuck with, right? I got suspended from Facebook for 30 days for saying, and there was like, this is misinformation or false information that they said, right? Then I saw 2 months ago, was it 2 months ago? Jon Stewart on Colbert.
A bit more, yes.
3 months ago?
It's at least 6.
With Colbert on TV asking Jon Stewart, like, so what do you... And then Jon Stewart was like, you have to be dumb to not think that it came from this lab. But like now it was like approved for him to say or something because there was a bunch of pressure. Like everybody was coming at Fauci and stuff. And Rand Paul, who people don't like, but I was there for his dad. I ride with Ron Paul. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Liberty
like
Report.
Rand Paul, I'm at least going to listen. You know what I'm saying? So Rand Paul is just hammering Fauci about gain of function research. What did you do there? How is the NIH and the NAID on these papers and stuff? How are you denying that? And he was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, all this.
He had his moment.
And everybody piled on Rand Paul like he was a crazy person for dare questioning this. First of all, Fauci is paid $400,000 a year. He makes more than the president. He is the highest paid government official. And he has the audacity to go on fucking CNN and 60 Minutes and say, I am science. Like he's some infallible fucking God. Like this is in Rome when the scientists were like fighting and shit. You know, this is like some weird time where the science, and I say science because they're denying other science, is like the new religion for these people. They bashed Christians and even Muslims and everybody about worshiping religion and stuff, and this is their religion that they've clung to now. They are so bad at accepting that like Christians live amongst them and stuff that they think they have to be, well, you're a Christian, you're a right-wing Republican or whatever. They have this tribalism that's associated with religion, and they don't even realize that now they have this tribalism that's associated with this new religion. Like they are. And so I couldn't talk about this shit at all. I would get banned for 30 days and people would just make jokes and be like, see you, I guess I'll see you in 30 days and shit. And then I would just get back. As soon as I get back, I was like, you fucking bitches still making bat soup jokes. Like right back at it. Like I was so pissed at these comedians because again, I didn't sign up for these rules and I didn't sign up for groupthink. All you comics, I'm going to watch like set after set after set and you're all going to say the same shit. You're all going to talk about like, you guys really think this shit came from a bat and not corrupt governments that are in control of these people all over the world?
Well, it could also be because comics live in urban centers, and urban centers tend to be a certain way, and then people tend to adapt themselves to the people around them.
Yeah, but the comics are supposed to be smarter than this.
Aren't you disappointed in mostly everybody now?
Yeah, man, I thought people were smarter.
Yeah.
Even though I knew motherfuckers were dumb, I just thought the smart people We're going to do like the smart thing and not what they think is smart. Like what they feel is the smart thing is siding with anybody who is the narrative. Anybody who has the official story, like the government says this, the CDC says this, the FDA says this. They are the official narrative. So anything against that, your whatever label they can give you, you can have 2 fucking jabs and say I'm against mandates, and they call you an anti-vaxxer.
Well, see, this is also where we differ because they are doing the technically smart thing for them.
Yeah, but that's called selfishness.
Yeah, but it's still smart. It's smart to be selfish.
Yeah, so why, when I don't want to wear a mask, why I don't want to take a jab, then they're throwing that word at me. You're selfish. Kyrie Irving doesn't want to do this shit, so they won't let him play or practice or any of this shit. And you got Charles Barkley on TV going like, that's so selfish. That is so selfish. Like, yeah, because he wants to, keep his body and have bodily autonomy? Yeah, that is selfish. But freedom has nothing to do with everybody else's. Like, you have to be selfish. Like, when you're on a fucking plane and the oxygen mask come down, it says, put it on yourself first. There's nobody else that can manage the risk for you. And the fact that the government has convinced other people to do that is why now that they've unleashed these safety patrols on social media, and they're reporting people, and they've taken this fun of being brown shirts. They're fucking communist brown shirts that want to like literally tell on each other. So I'll post some shit and they'll be like, oh, Carl's a fucking nut and thinks this shit came from a lab. What a goofy fuck. He doesn't know that it came from bats. I'm like, yeah. And then you find out that they were using skin penetrating nanoparticles to go under bats' skin and shit like that. Oh, they left that part out? The bats were in the lab?
We can't go too deep into that in this conversation because, I mean, it is a rabbit hole. And a lot of people just simply avoid going down that rabbit hole, and that's why they trust what they're told by their friends or the government.
Because they don't want to know that their government is the same people telling them not to do something is the same people that cause something. They don't want to know that listening to the people who cause the harm, like it's a really weird situation. It's like an abusive relationship. It's like they don't want to believe that this entity, this person could hurt them, could really be harmful to them.
Doyle, it's not that they trust the government, because they don't. They trust the people in power. It's something much more sinister.
They do. See, like I have a
They don't
stance.
trust the government.
What? I have a stance.
They didn't trust Trump.
He's not the government. He's an outsider.
So they don't trust the government. They trust the person.
No. They trust the institutions of the government, right? I have a firm belief in like when I say the left me, until they have like a similar stance, I'll never be on that. I am for abolishing all 3-letter agencies. Every single one of them. FBI? Yep. CIA? Uh-huh. ICE? Yep. The FDA? Yep.
You're for
CDC? Yep. All of them. Name a 3-letter entity. TSA? See ya. Every single one of them. Name one that's good.
They need to be reformed.
Name one that isn't corrupted. Name one that is... The FDA, to approve a drug. If Tony came up with some awesome drug that cured cancer, right? 78% of the review board of the FDA is big pharma. He's not even going to get his shit approved because he hasn't paid off the people who approve the drugs.
He would need to pay for double-blind studies, which are quite expensive, and people can't afford it.
But the other people own the studies. The other people own those scientists. They're not going to perform your studies. They work for Pfizer now. Those scientists that are going to do it, that's what I'm saying. So they'd be like, trust the science. Which science? The one that's beholden to these companies, or the scientist who's doing an independent study? You can't say trust the science when science is a method.
I do have to say that we are seeing it fall apart right now. We have seen in our history, even in the 20th century, where the government was more so than now working on behalf of the American people and representative of the American people.
Never.
Maybe in a twisted way.
They were working on behalf of America.
America.
They've
so you
never
make a
worked on behalf of the American people.
You don't see. I don't necessarily make a distinction there.
Well, you need to.
No, because you got to think like Rome. They think of it as a They think of it as a They think of it as an entity, a massive entity, and the individual is sort of lost in what it is.
Well,
and
think
so
of it
they
as
are
like Star
thinking,
Wars, right? Are you a Star Wars fan at all?
No, I'm more familiar with Rome than Star Wars. Star Trek.
Okay, well, Star Trek, if you want to break it down and why, and people are like, oh, you can't have Star Trek, right, without some totalitarian globalist agenda. You can't have the Enterprise and Starfleet without that.
Yeah.
Everybody in the same uniform, everybody believes in service, everybody. That shit is communist as fuck.
That's the military. Our military is communist.
Yeah, but our military is voluntary.
It hasn't always been.
They had a draft when it comes to like serious things like some bullshit Vietnam conflict that they made up and got my dad wounded in. They make shit up to be like, oh, we need a draft and stuff. But the fact is, we have these groups of people who start conflicts all over the place and then send our kids to war. And why are our kids there? Because we're poor. We're poor. So they recruit poor kids in rural communities, whether they're black, whether they're white, it doesn't matter. And they promise them that they can go to college. Well, it doesn't matter if military kids or kids that play football or whatever. The common denominator is we've made school seem like a privilege when it should be a right. So we charge kids to go to school. So when you're come from nothing, getting a scholarship and being good at sports or joining the military or crime are your only options. And they've gotten it to a point where that's what they'll do. Mm-hmm. They'll give you the fewest options possible. So you're going to side with the people that are giving you options. So they have had a ruler in place, the authoritarians that they've had. What's up,
This is Cosmo.
What's up, homie?
He's going to bite Doyle in the head.
Doyle's chilling now.
I know. He's chilling now. He's going to try to bite him. You were talking about how the military is one of the options that we are given.
Yeah, so if you look at what they, like how I said, they just want it's basically like they need, this is a new slave system, a new caste system,
Neo-feudalism.
A new feudalism. It's the fourth industrial revolution. It's a new type of stuff. In order to usher it in, like Starfleet that they would have, whether you're using the analogy of it's like the military or something, to get an entire people to believe into that shit, you have to have an authoritarian regime.
Not necessarily. We've believed things without having an authoritarian regime before.
But this is it. If people think authoritarian, they think Trump, or they think like true fascism, which was invented by fucking Mussolini and them, is the merger of the corporate state and government.
True.
Period. So every day when they're like, Trump's a fascist, I'm like, what is Disney?
Hollywood has helped out the government for a long time.
We're
a nation. We're a united nation.
So when people don't believe in states' rights, or they start getting mad at parents at school boards for trying to educate their kids, or you post something on social media and they'll try and take that shit down, you are now participating in fascism. You are participating in the shit that you claimed was going to be ushered in by Trump, by some authoritarian figure. You are the authoritarian. You can't have an authoritarian government without authoritarian followers. And you are them. You are
that's
it.
True. You're terrified.
They always talk about authoritarians as the rulers, but they never mention the followers. They never mention the doctors and the nurses and the media people that went along with the Nazis, that encouraged everything, that told everybody that your neighbor is unclean, that you should avoid them and stuff like that. Why? Because they carry disease.
They made everybody have a copy of Mein Kampf. And Hitler was also he used the radio, which was their technology at the time.
It's social media.
It was their social media.
If the president of the United States would get suspended off of Twitter, right? They suspended his account. You can't even look at this shit no more, right? Then the new president comes in, and you can't dislike his videos on YouTube anymore, or you can't reply to the tweets and stuff. This person limits who can reply to the tweets.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people using
then
that.
Only the certain journalists on a certain side then push out that certain story. Then they have the paid activists that all regurgitate the same tweets. You've seen them. You've seen them like, I want to live in a world where Colin Kaepernick is a... You've seen that tweet that was made by 15, 30 different celebrities.
And they think they're doing the right thing, though. Here's my thing: is a lot of them think they're on the right side. They're not necessarily paid.
But that's how the Nazis were.
coerced.
The Nazis in Germany, they're like, oh, you're a Nazi. You know who the Nazis were? The citizens. They were part of the Nazi party. They all voted and democratically elected Nazism.
They bought into a utopian ideal. The Nazis bought into that.
So who pitches that every day in California? This utopian idea that, oh, we'll let everybody out of jail. 75,000 homeless people on the street. That doesn't matter. They should be able to have drugs. Who cares about stealing?
We learned that they should not be able to have drugs.
This is authoritarianism. It comes from this sort of festering of people looking for somebody to rule them.
We might have to have a new word, because what we have is it's unique. It's not so unique because it was done before through the television and through the radio, but it's also unique because they're able to get into our brains 24/7. So we may have to have a new word, and we may have to come to terms with the fact that I don't want to say people ain't shit, but
people equal shit though. Shout out Slipknot.
But we have to come to terms of how flawed people actually are and how terrified they are.
If you know that people are inherently cowards, inherently are cowards, that it actually takes something inside of you to recognize somebody being brave. Or wow, that's courageous. Wow, that's bravery. You see somebody like jump into a fucking fire burning building, like save somebody. When you see real heroism, you're like, wow. You're like dumbfounded by it. I've seen just on Alameda, I was at Sinclair getting gas, and there was a car a truck just shot across and bam, smacked this other car. And I was getting gas, and I seen it, and I immediately pulled my car out of the gas station thing so somebody could fill up anyways. And then I went over there, and I waited with them. I moved shit out of the road. And luckily, there was actually, this happened in front of an ambulance, but it was like a third-party ambulance company. They had a patient in the back, and they were like radioing in and waiting. I called the emergency line, like, listen, there were so many people that were just like off to the side, just standing around, like taking pictures, things like that. And then this happened again. Before, I was at the Comedy Store, and outside of it, I saw a crash, and the car took off. And I ran up the street to chase after the car, to either like look at the plates or be like, that's a dead end. They can't get out that way. Maybe I could get a report. I ran back to the car who was still in the road, and nobody helped them. And then that's how I look at shit when I see like the George Floyd video, or I see any of the shit that I see, the bad shit that we see, and they're like, oh, the world's going crazy. Look at it. And you could just see it on social media. I'm like, yeah, because nobody's doing anything. They're standing around filming tyranny. They sit around and film atrocity instead of being heroes. And so what happens? These cowards in everyday life now have kids with money and lives, and they don't care about those things. So what do in their own inherent cowardness? The most mundane things are now heroic.
Such as?
Nurses dancing on TikTok during the COVID shit. Heroes. It's sad. They're comfortable cowards in their own mundane lives that they won't even stop for a fucking car accident to help somebody.
We have been like this for a while. Do you remember the case in New York where that entire apartment building watched that lady get stabbed to death and nobody did anything?
Oh my God.
That was in the 80s. So we are
this just
way.
happened in downtown LA.
Oh, it happened again?
When they were now, luckily this time, like the SWAT team was coming in.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But they like filmed that shit the whole time. That guy, the homeless guy, ran up there with a knife and the shit, and then they are like, look across the way in the building. I'm like, yo, that.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
And there's so many things like in again, state of California. I don't know if you guys know this. You can steal $950 worth of stuff and not get a felony charge for it. You could literally walk out of the store with $900 worth of shit and you're not going to jail. When you tell that to somebody, you're like, why don't they just stop them? You see a video? They're so obsessed with litigation, being sued and stuff here, that nobody would just stop somebody from bad shit. Nobody
they
would.
got shot. That guy got shot at Rite Aid or the Best Buy.
Well, a lot of people would be like,
shot
why would
dead.
you get involved? Why would you do
Yeah.
But that's going to stop people from doing stuff. If the armed security guard that was in there literally just shot a guy for doing that shit, I bet that type of shit would stop overnight. But because they don't do that, there is no righteous violence anymore for this. We have auctioned off.
We are not supporting righteous violence.
No, but I'm saying
I know what you mean, but I
here's
just
what
have
I'm saying.
to.
Well, the reason I call it righteous violence is like where the citizens, where a community would handle those sort of things. We, being cowards in our comfortable lives, have now auctioned off or pawned off this righteous violence to the state.
But why would somebody get involved for Rite Aid? I could see why they would get involved for a corner pharmacy that maybe their neighbor owns.
Yeah.
But why would you get involved for Rite Aid? Why would you put your life on the line for Rite Aid?
Why would you get a shot to work at Rite Aid?
I don't know.
I'm saying, why would people have to be fully vaxxed to go to their fucking mundane fucking job where they alter their DNA to do that, but they won't get involved in stopping somebody from stealing shit out of their store?
Because like we're talking about risk assessments.
Because they're cowards. Because
most people are cowards.
Right.
Most.
And criminals know that.
Yeah.
Because when you challenge a criminal, what happens? They either go to jail or they get fucked up because the cops challenge criminals.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you going to do, criminal? You're going to do...
But the average person, why should the average person care about what happens at Rite Aid?
Because that's why they don't care about their community.
Well, because we don't have a community. The community was taken over by these franchises or whatever. Main Street was taken away, and we don't own these stores anymore.
Right. So we have the audacity to start bitching about equity, this and all that, while we don't actually take initiative for ownership in our community. We allow things like gentrification to happen and then bitch that it happens. We allow this stuff to happen. That's why I say Republicans are the ones who claim they don't want small or big government, but they just allow the ever-expanding government to happen. They never put their foot down and go, absolutely not, we'll never sign this fucking bill. Ever. Fight us.
Well, they're two sides of the same coin.
Right.
Where do we do now?
So we, as, and I keep saying we, as cowardice people, we have pawned this off to the state, where we call the cops, and the cops will probably do something bad to the bad guys. And we don't care. It's out of sight, out of mind. And then when that bad shit happens and the cops actually do something, we go, oh, they shouldn't be doing this. But we are the ones that have pawned this righteous violence off to this. Maybe we call the cops and that guy who just broke into that shit, maybe they rough him up a little bit.
I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Maybe something bad happens to that guy when the cops show up. Because he probably deserved it. That's why we called the cops. But we are saying we want the state to handle this because we're incapable.
I think it might be a generation of people who were raised not understanding that bad things have to happen in order for there to be stability.
No, it's a generation of people who are raised as statists because we used to have state rights, smaller communities, a non-ever expanding government with massive overreach, to where the federal government and even the state overreaching government didn't get involved in local stuff and stuff. The local police were allowed to police their community. Regular citizens were allowed to police their community. Like, hey, something's not right here.
But when exactly are you talking? I want to know the timeline.
I don't know. Probably the same time that we made this transition of cable news every night, so feed like, this, like probably the 90s when
millennium, the turn of the
probably that. That's probably like our most of the time where we stopped caring that the state was doing all this shit.
Because the state has been increasing its power slowly for a long time.
And then they ramped it up now.
Well, they ramped it up once it became obvious that we weren't
When
going to
the
do anything.
Especially when the Trump shit happened. And
Yeah.
Trump, like, he ushered in like a weird type of socialism, even though all his supporters are like, fuck socialists. Like, he printed more money than anybody before this, because the Biden thing still hasn't gone through yet.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and Obama printed for the 2008 thing. That
Yeah,
seems
but
to
I'm
be
saying
consistent.
Trump has printed more money than anybody. So they just keep ramping that shit up. They just keep
Yeah.
printing money that doesn't exist. And then he was the stimulus bills and stuff that was under him. That is the most socialist sort of progressive thing that's even been passed in America. Next to what, FDR?
Bush gave us all checks right before he left in 08.
That was like, wait, Jack, I get a $300 check once. You got my vote. I don't go down the, like, Alex Jones will say something that's awesome about like how corrupt these people are. And he goes, well, what it is, they're interdimensional Satanists. And then you're like, God damn it. You're like, that's what it is. I mean, they're, and I'll explain it to you, T.I., in a second. Because like he's talking to like some celebrity who wants to, he's like, okay, T.I., it's interdimensional reptilians. They're Satanists. They love blood of children. And like the UN, all these like other entities, like, yeah, he's right about a lot of that shit.
He's
where
right
the
about a
child
lot of
trafficking
things.
that they do, and like the CIA uses, like the UN got caught doing the shit. So did you see that guy who's at like the head of the UN's like food thing, who said Elon Musk could solve world hunger with $6 billion?
That was embarrassing.
And then he was like, cool. And then he like freed up like $6 billion and was like, now what? And he was like, oh, by the way, you whatever happened to all those kids that you were like sex trafficking? And like the guy never answered him. He like even tweeted that. It was like an article that says like UN is involved in selling kids for favors or some shit like that. And he's like, what's up with this? Never got a response.
So what we can agree on is it's not a left or a right thing. But one of my bigger concerns right now, because Obama was doing it, Trump was doing it, Bush was doing it before, Clinton was doing it before. It's
Epstein?
become ramped up. Oh yeah. And you also, one of these things is we have to break it down issue by issue.
Yeah. So I hate the fact that like your followers know that QAnon was like a CIA psyop. Right.
We have not discussed it on this channel. We've not brought up Q at all.
Like Flynn, right? The guy that got
General Flynn.
Yeah. He basically admitted that was a CIA psyop to like rile up the dummies. So anybody who will just look at the like Q stuff and be like, it's goddamn Hollywood and their pedophile cult. And it's only them, and Trump was trying to save us all. And like, are you that stupid that you don't think that like rich people, no matter their country, no matter what, are involved in this just because they're just rich? Like, this is what they do. Like, these rich people are intertwined in a web of richness. Oh yeah, that's what we're doing. Like,
and that makes them child molesters?
No, well, like that's how they're like in this way. Like, it's not a right or left thing. It's not like the right because they're full of Christians and all this. We're coming to save the planet from and rid them of the child traffickers. And like, they're complicit. These are the people that are involved. There are people on the right, the GOP people, who also fund like CIA campaigns, who they like sell kids.
Okay, we'll look that up and see
But
where
I'm saying, like,
these kids are being sold, et cetera, et
like
cetera.
I said, like the UN and all this stuff, like they've had this come up all the time. But I'm saying to act like it's only some leftist thing, and that this QAnon thing. That's how like QAnon garnered a lot of support. It was around the kid shit. It was around the like this pedophile cults that like Trump is gonna expose. I'm like, dude, Trump was hanging out with Epstein. He was owned the Miss USA pageant and shit because he likes young chicks. Like, do you think that like this creepy motherfucker, if he got a chance to like, didn't he get in trouble for like statutory rape or some shit? Anyways, like there was like a case of a 13-year-old girl. You could probably look it up. I know your people will fucking find that.
Yeah,
shit.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to accuse somebody of something that serious.
But so the left accused Trump of this. That's the only reason I knew of this. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So that's how I know that there is no left-right fucking paradigm in this, except for they all believe in canceling who they don't like. They all believe in censoring the speech of who they don't like. And that's where we're at, is a problem, because the left wants to censor truthers and people like that. And the right will censor anybody who doesn't agree, that they'll write them off as like, they're pedophiles, they're Hollyweird, they're like... So both sides are never going to come to a terms that they're getting fucked every day by the same people who tell them that the other side's fucking them.
Yeah.
They're never going to wake up from it because there's, like you said, there's a constant bombardment of psyops all day long. What's up?
This one's the skittish one. I'm surprised he actually came out for a company.
Hey, buddy.
That was good. That was a good place to...
Yeah. I wanted to ask you real quick before we go. You have some extreme views. Have your extreme views hurt you in real life or just online?
Yeah.
How so in real life? Except for that booking. You mentioned a booking earlier.
In relationships.
Really?
Yeah.
Like your friends have said no?
Yeah, or even, even more personal than that, like literally like my ex, we would like fight about certain things. Like she'd be like, I'm sorry, I just don't think that there's a cabal of rich people running the world. And I'm like, really? So I'll just like, every time some shit, I'll be like, here you go. Really?
Well, there's a cabal of rich people running the world.
Yeah.
We know that. Whether or not they're Satanist pedophiles is a different thing.
So like that's where I'd like draw the line and stuff. And I was like, okay, you got to talk to me rationally to know that everybody is involved in this. It has to do with greed and power and never giving up their power, thinking they're doing the right thing. They think they're righteous, but I'd say like that fucking pedophile whatever shit that they're obsessed about is like 1% of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas they think it's like 90% of it. Yeah. It's like, it's not, bro. It's like 1% of it. Most of it is like, we want to rule these people and keep them down and steal their resources. Like most of it is like a big game of chess. They want to control people. If they can use blackmail or whatever, that's how Epstein got in power. He was just like gain knowledge about these people. What would they like? And he had like 160 cameras on him and we'll watch him at all times. As soon as they like showed some moment of weakness that they're like, oh, maybe they're interested in young girls. Maybe they like this. Got him.
Yeah.
That's what they would do. They would blackmail people. Ghislaine Maxwell. They would blackmail world leaders.
We will see.
And they were all intelligence people. It's like, so I have to say this. My mouth obviously is the reason that I'd be getting banned from shit. Mm. But it's not just like what I say. It is how I say it. And people are like, well, why don't you just change how you say it? You
could not call people retarded.
But I can.
But that's a slur now.
But it shouldn't be.
Okay, we're not going to... We've had this discussion in the past.
Have we?
Yeah, remember we did that? Yeah. Well, it didn't come out, so we can't talk about it because you don't get the reference. But... maybe if you didn't call them retarded.
Well, we got to come up with a new name of whatever this new fascism is, like this fascism 2.0. So when we come up with that, we can like come up with a new word for retard.
Brainwashed, because you can be retarded and still not, like you could be clinically retarded and still not go along with what is going on. So that's why I want to say like, let's not let's not disparage retards here.
Yeah, but that's like saying, right? But because I do a bit on stage about saying retarded after it, and it's like I just followed up. But I said, when I say retarded, and somebody goes, "Yo, you can't say that," because I actually teach special needs kids. And I go, well, you thought I was talking about special needs kids, so that means you call them retarded, and you probably shouldn't teach them. Right? If I say retarded and your first thought is kids with special needs, maybe you shouldn't be their teacher. Right?
Should we say things that aren't going to off-put people immediately? Should we make efforts to...
Because nothing would change somebody's mind, get their attention or anything if they're not offended or their feathers aren't ruffled. Especially in this COVID era with groupthink or whatever. Anything that goes against the grain, I'm being labeled alt-right. I've been labeled all this other shit. And I have the same fucking stance on shit that I had when I was, cheering for Ron Paul. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to change just because they've decided they want to self-censor, they want to belong to a group, and I don't.
So you don't see a way out of this, is what I'm getting.
Yeah, I see my way out is to keep pushing through the mountain.
Okay, so your way out. No, I'm talking about where we are as a country. Do you not see being able to convince people?
If I say this is going to be crazy. But the only way out of it is bloodshed.
I don't see... We would be lucky. I was actually having this conversation with Tony recently. I'm like, we'd be lucky to have a war. There's no mechanism for an actual war right now.
It'll be Star Wars shit. It would be rebels versus the Empire. And people will always go, oh, you're going to have your gun for against a tyrannical government with tanks and drones and shit? I was like, yeah, a bunch of cave dwellers just beat you for 20 years doing that.
Yeah, I mean...
We got a chance.
A war is the easiest way, but if you
and
think
urban warfare and country warfare here... Especially the military is getting replaced. Like, they're all dropping like flies and getting replaced by a bunch of woke, compliant
I don't know
people.
how deep that goes, because when you go outside of LA and you start talking to people, you're like, oh, okay, most people are not. The military. In the military.
They're refusing the vax. So like 10,000 troops just quit.
We have a lot of troops.
Right. But I'm saying, imagine if that just keeps going. And then they'll replace the 10,000 with a bunch of... Like, obviously they will all comply before being in the military, but I mean way more compliant than this. If 10,000 of them would quit overnight because of the jab, they'll get 10,000 that won't even ask that question.
This is one of those questions. I don't think that right now, I am not going to say for certain, but I see hope that the people are not as far gone as it seems on social media. Because a lot of people aren't even on social media.
You're quite optimistic. I can see that if you reached every person individually, there would be hope. Mm-hmm. But as soon as people group together, it just gets right bad again. Joe Rogan had Sanjay Gupta on there and was like, you're lying to me. Why are you lying? You work for the company. Why don't you say they're fucking lying? Mm-hmm. Right? And he was like, yeah, I don't know why they did that. Then he went back on CNN, and when he was with the panel of CNN people, he's like, yeah, Rogan and his dewormer shit. I'm like, dude, you just, on an individual basis, admitted it was bullshit and everything they were doing. And then when you got together with them, you changed again. That's how I know there's no hope. You can individually talk to somebody, and then when they get back together with their people, they're like, oh, I'm not, I know I said I was going to go along, but I'm not.
A lot of people in the country just they're not on COVID anymore. They've moved past it. Although they're still trying to push this message, I'm seeing a lot of the individuals that I talk to, they don't care too much about it.
I hope, because LeBron just said some shit, right? LeBron just tweeted something fishy going on.
And Trevor Noah, too, is coming around, but these are people within the cities. Like, I think New York and LA are especially crazy. I think the rest of the country is like, all right, we'll see. They got jobs, they got mortgages, etc. I do want to say one thing, that me not thinking that we're coming to bloodshed, that's not optimistic. That's pessimistic, because bloodshed would solve it. I don't see a path where
I don't think bloodshed solves it. I think bloodshed is what sets the tone. And I think it'll be the longest fight that has been on this soil, like the Civil War was what, 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
It would probably be about that, 4 or 5 years.
See, that's best case scenario where we could solve it.
And then they'll usher
physically.
in the next shit. Then it's Terminator time. Here come the T-1000s.
We'll see. I've always said this, like we can roll around in our own shit for a long, long time before there's a solution.
Oh God, I hope my dog's not rolling in his own shit right now.
I hope not. Okay. Well, Carl, thank you so much for coming through. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on a lot.
I have a new Instagram.
You have a new Instagram. Tell everybody where they can find you now.
It's Mr. Big Spit, MrBigSpit.
Because you're big as fuck.
Yeah, 6'8".
Okay.
So.
He's 6'8", everybody. He's like a giant of a man.
So yeah, it's just MrBigSpit, Mr. Big Spit, and I'm that like across on platforms. Now,
Twitter as well.
Twitter, I just made a new one. Same thing.
And you said you're going to go on to was it Rotkin?
So I have a sports podcast with Josh Denny that right now is now exclusively on Rockfin as ROKFIN, and Rockfin is basically like where a bunch of either comedians, free thought, or free press, independent journalists have gone, sort of Substack like type people that have their own. They put it all on Rockfin as creators, and you subscribe to that instead of Patreon where you would subscribe individually, like, oh, I support them. You just have a Rockfin subscription, and then you have access to all their content creators.
Okay.
It's basically like Netflix for conspiracy theorists and comics and independent journalists. And our sports podcast is on there. It's called Big Uglies, and it's the big topics, the ugly topics that they won't talk about, ESPN and the like. And so, yeah, we're on there. And then I'm probably just going to do like Patreon stuff for me. Like if you wanted to get like the same news or stuff that I was going to share, I was just going to, $5 a month it. And that way I can like spend time researching stuff. And
it's important. Yeah.
If they want to, because I had people hit me up and go like, your stuff's not there. I used to get my news from you. And I was like, listen, I'm not your Google, but like, I was like, pay me $5 a month on Patreon. And they were like, dude, I would pay that.
Yeah.
So like 15 people told me like, I would pay for that. And I was like, okay, sounds like I'm going to do that.
Okay.
So yeah, Mr. Big Spit on platforms, and I'm on PS5 on Mr. Big Spit too if you want to get beat. And what else? What you got going on, girl?
I got this. We got stuff going on at the studio.
The studio's popping over there, huh? Hey.
Studio's popping, and
Listen, I appreciate you having me here. Your dog went to sleep on my lap, by the way.
Good.
So I think I'm just a whisperer, or is that all he needed? Was to touch me. That's all he needed. You do a close up on this, and you're like, that's all he needed. He's a good boy.
Thank you so much for coming, Carl.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. It was fun. It was nobody talks to me at length about this shit, by the way. Nobody.
Yes, we're definitely gonna do this again. People, take everything Carl says with a grain of salt. Look it up yourself. Just because he's here doesn't mean I endorse everything he says, but he has a right to speak. And hopefully this doesn't get me taken off YouTube.
Nice. It's like we were like 2 minutes in, and he was like, "This might get censored."